I sail from a cove where the warm trade winds blow and the silver blue dolphins glide, where the rum's always strong and the nights run long and the tide is a thief at your side. When the moon's riding high and the lanterns are low and the waves start to shimmer bright, come aboard, cast away, let the sea have its say on another Caribbean night. Caribbean nights, like Caribbean days, more often than not, they're wilder than not, in the boldest of ways. Caribbean nights, neath Caribbean stars. Oh, rogue with a grin, could win or give in, out there past the bars. Oh, the drums on the shore keep a whispering law of the captains who never came home, and the gulls overhead cry of treasure and dread where the reefs hide a kingdom of bone. But the breeze tastes the spice and the gamble feels right when your heart's set on freedom's bite. Raise a toast, stake your claim, let the world know your name on another Caribbean night. Caribbean nights. Caribbean nights.
When I started this project, I didn't realize how much of an undertaking it would really be. It's been a learning process, to say the least, but we're almost ready for launch. My team and I wanted to make sure that all of our ducks were in a row before we really got started. All of that said, the Discord is officially live, and I will begin sending out invites via the GoFundMe page messaging system. If you're one of the amazing people who donated to the pre-launch GoFundMe campaign, which is still up, by the way, you'll get a private message from me over the course of the next few days. The GoFundMe is still accepting contributions. Meanwhile, our art director Thatch and I are finalizing the layout of the Kickstarter page, reward tiers, and stretch goals so we can finish what's needed to launch the official Kickstarter. And remember, if you donate to the GoFundMe page, you get your name on a special thank you page in the book, as well as access to the Discord to help us build it. Thank you all very much for your donations, encouragement, and kind words. We're gonna make something awesome.
We will make something awesome. But first, the Norseforged gathering is upon us. We have a little over 35 days before the start of the Norseforged Gathering 6 in New London, North Carolina. And we have news on that front. We have performers who have been announced. Ali the Piper, the Harp Twins, the Wolfgang Twins. Those are harpers and drummers. We have pirates, we have mermaids, we have Vikings, we have things for the little kiddos to learn how to play D&D. Yes, it is 3 days in the woods. We even have a Sasquatch hunt. Tickets on sale only on NorseforgedGathering.com. No tickets will be sold at the gate. Premium camping is done, I think. There's no more premium camping available. So if you want to camp out, you have to buy a camping pass anyway, but you have to bring your own tent. We have a 60 some odd foot climbing tower that will be open. Oh, it's going to be a glorious time doing all sorts of things. We have a Bahuit tournament full on live action armored combat. Yes. We have fire spinners and fire eaters, and there's a nerd prom. Yes. Join us May 22nd through the 24th. I almost said November. November was the Legacy Gathering. But we're not at the Legacy Gathering. We are at the regular gathering. It's a gathering of nerds, if you will. And those of us here on this podcast fit in very well there. You will see creators like myself and Archaeowolf, your guys' favorite pseudoscience debunker. You'll see creators like my good friend Papa Popo, or Popo Blanco as he is known. Queen of Vikings will be there. Tank Tolman will be there. Taco Reacts will be there. Taco Reacts is actually doing a Sasquatch hunt. He wants to hunt for a Sasquatch. Join us. Get your tickets now. They're on sale. Welcome in, everybody. I am your host, the rogue thief pirate archaeologist. Some of you know me as Chris. Some of you know me as Captain Bartholomew Bones McCoy. We are a D&D TTRPG nerdcast. Sports, archaeology, everything. Nerdcast. We are here once a week, every Friday. Times may differ depending. I'm currently just running time out because our favorite teeny monster is going to be late to the podcast because she apparently had some alcohol abuse. She spilt daiquiri mix in the fridge. But, yes. So I'd like to welcome everybody in. Yokai, Kirk, Jim. We are awaiting teeny time. Jim, Retriever of Gold. Welcome in, everybody. I know, right? Spilled alcohol. What a crime. What a crime. What a crime. I do want to tell you guys that I was severely impressed with the voting and the algorithm this week, because you're not too far off. But that's for later on in the show. Please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. Share this out with your friends. We're not getting started yet, so you got time to get people in to the chat and into the stream. Kirk's liked and subscribed all the time. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you for that. I do appreciate you guys. I have unread notification. No, I knew that. My notification said your microphone is unmuted but has no signal. No, it has signal. Sci-fi overlay is perfect for pragmata streams. I don't know what that is, so we're not going to worry about those. Anyway, tonight's podcast is brought to you by Kirkuestions. Kirkuestions. Cody Campbell, any new archaeology projects going on? Unfortunately, no. However, because, so Cody, I work for FEMA, so I don't do any archaeology projects. And I don't know what is going on with Archaeowolf at the moment with what he does. I think they're getting ready for fire season. But as an independent research project, I recently, about 2 months ago, thought of a PhD level thesis, just in case I wanted to go back to school, or just in case I wanted to do this on my own and use it to get an honorary PhD without having to go to PhD school. But let me tell you, let me ask you guys what you guys think. I have my thesis title, and I think it's a great one. And other archaeologists or anthropologists that I've told this to actually are interested in finding this information out also, at least reading my old thesis. So what do you guys think? My thesis title is going to be Piracy from Above, integrating UAS-based LiDAR, GPR, and photogrammetry to analyze illicit networks and social resistance in the 17th century Caribbean. Now, basically what that is we're going to be mapping out all of the illicit trade networks and trying to locate pirate havens and pirate encampments that haven't been found or that have been lost, or trying to find where pirates would have hidden out from the Royal Navy or the Spanish Navy and stuff like that within the Caribbean. I think that's great, especially since 90% of it has to be done from a boat. It would be interesting. So, Cody, there is a island in the Caribbean. The island is Mayaguana. Mayaguana. It's in the Bahamas. And it's a well-known island. It's got maybe 247 a population of like 247 on the whole island. It's got an airport. It's not a segregated island, but there is a town there that was built near a freshwater well. And this freshwater well was dug and bricked up and built up by pirates. And the town is called Pirates Well. I am not going to find the pirate paradise of Libertalia. Maybe, but I don't think, you see, Kirk, you obviously have failed to understand the concept of Last Crusade. Because X never ever marks the spot. Never. That's Hollywood fiction. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. And I don't dig up dinosaur bones. And we convert dinosaurs to energy all day long, every day. As a matter of fact, part of our questions today. Oh, we're 13 minutes in, 15 minutes in. It's not X's, it's giant O's. Really? No. You're more likely to find treasure. Here's the honest truth. you are more likely to find treasure after a hurricane. More likely to find treasure after a hurricane. All the time. Just look at the guys who are doing the digging up there in Oak Island. They followed an old map that led to nothing. Graham Hancock follows old maps that lead to nothing. Matter of fact, I was going to show you guys a video tonight, but I didn't download it and I didn't upload it into here. But ArchaeoWolf was vindicated in a video. Not directly, but he was vindicated. So if you follow him over on TikTok, you can go watch his latest video and you can know what I'm talking about. It's ArchaeoWolf, ArchaeoWolf at TikTok. All right. Shall we get into the first question? Yes, Cody, and you follow me because you sent me a follow request and I followed you back. I appreciate that, by the way. But shall we get started? Our first question today. Now, there is a question in here that's not a question, but it's the last question. So let's move right along. I don't need that mouse. I need this mouse. I have a mouse for my work computer and I have a mouse for my regular computer. And since I'm on my regular computer, I need that mouse, right? Let's move on to question number 1, and it's from Kirk. When were the first animals domesticated, and what were they? And how do we know they were domesticated, not just hunted? Well, Kirk, I honestly thought I had the answer for this one. And I was wrong. Though not really. Because I thought, and it happened about the same time. But I thought goats would have been the answer. But then I forgot. Do you ever forget? I forget all the time. It's actually in one of these books over here that I got for school. But beginning during the Upper Paleolithic, at least about 15,000 years ago, dogs were the first animals that were domesticated, and they were domesticated from wolves. Genetic and archaeological evidence shows a distinct dog lineage from the late Pleistocene and clear human dog burials by 14,000 to 11,000 years ago. Now, sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs were domesticated later during the early Neolithic in the Fertile Crescent, roughly 11 to 9,000 years ago. So it wasn't that too far off, but it was enough that dogs came first, which obviously dogs are man's best friend. The first herd animals, like I was saying, were sheep and goats, then pigs and cattle. And the dogs were used for hunting. More than likely, they were used for hunting. You can't herd livestock if that's not domesticated. So, I mean, you could herd wild livestock into. So, okay. Remember what ArchaeoWolf was saying a couple weeks ago about kill sites and how they're typically U-shaped areas of built-up mounds with one way in and only one way out. Well, there are some other kill sites that are like that, but they're more triangular, wide on the large side, narrow and open on the inside, that led to a cliff. And groups of people, when they domesticated the wolf and the dog, would send the dogs out to herd the wild animals into these kill zones and either killed them with the spears or the projectiles or whatever, or drove them off the cliff. And they died when they hit the bottom, and then they went down and just scavenged all of the meat and the stuff that they wanted, the stuff that they could off of the dead carcasses of the critters down below. Yes, we were. Yes, we were. We were hunter-gatherers before we settled with domestic animals. And domestication primarily only happened once you started agriculture. Because because we also domesticated wild plants, barley, wheat, corn, stuff like that. We started domesticating that, which is why civilizations 90 to 98% of the time were built on rivers, because you needed the water to grow your crops. I know all about that stuff. It's the pseudoscience stuff that I have to call in the other guy. Domestication, though, was a long and multi-century process in different places. Dates are ranges, not single years. But yeah. So, Kirk, dogs. Dogs were the first domesticated animals. I'm not answering that question, Kirk. Send it to me in an email, because I have to read it, and I don't think it was dead. Anyway, thank you for the question, Kirk. Your questions are always entertaining and out there and everything, but we love it. We absolutely love it. So, moving right along. Question 2. Why haven't we domesticated red pandas yet? I mean, just look at those things. This is just as bad as your dead parrot. Firstly, I had to do some research on this, because that's not the question you really want. I will get back to that question in a minute, Cody. But first, that's not the question that Kirk wanted, because the answer is they're endangered. The real question Kirk wanted was, why didn't we domesticate the red panda before they became an endangered species? That would give you a better answer. And that answer is because they were poor candidates for domestication. Primarily because they have a specialized diet. They lead a solitary arboreal lifestyle, and that is solitary in the trees. Arboreal. They have slow reproduction and small population sizes, and lack any long history of human-directed selective breeding. These biological and ecological constraints, not just modern conservation laws, explain why people never domesticated them. They don't breed fast enough. They have a very high specialized diet of just bamboo, which means they're only limited to places that grow bamboo. And bamboo doesn't grow everywhere. With the domestication of wolves to dogs, that was a selective breeding process where the ancient Paleolithic would breed one dog or one wolf with another, take that pup, take another pup from another different pair, breed those two, and systematically just start breeding out the wolf. They would breed they would breed them with other things. They would breed them with coyotes. They would breed them with hyenas or jackals, or yeah, it's how you get weird species of dog. But raccoons, look, raccoons are different than red pandas, primarily because raccoons are smart. Raccoons are absolutely smart. They're not lycanthropes. I mean, gators are being domesticated. They're just swamp puppies. The 4 F's for domestication: friendly, feedable, fecund, family values. I don't know what fecund is. Look, Cody. Look. You don't understand. Cody is new to the stream, everybody. Cody, you don't know what the Bard Father is building. The Bard Father is building Florida Man, the RPG, the TTRPG, and in it has a raccoonkin species that you could be. And it looks awesome. Matter of fact, Cody, you are in the Discord now. I will show you in the Discord. I will put it in the Discord tonight. The species, because the Bard Father has gifted me actual images of what the species are going to look like. Oh, you have no idea. There is a gator species, a gator guy species. There's a freaking I will show it to you. I will put it up in the Discord. Speaking of, the Bard Father is doing well. I spoke with him the other day. Apparently, Trevor Lawrence got his hair cut, and he looks, apparently to the Bard Father, he looks kind of hot. But no judgment to the Bard Father. I told the Bard Father this. He's not seeing it. Trevor Lawrence with short hair. Let's see if I can pull it up. Here, let's see. That's Trevor Lawrence with short hair, right? That's what the Bard Father sent me. I said, hey, the Bard Father wasn't seeing it because Trevor Lawrence with short hair. Come on. There we go. Is Johnny Bravo. See, look. Trevor Lawrence, short hair, Johnny Bravo. Short hair, Trevor Lawrence, Johnny Bravo. I think I made a great joke. Bardfather hadn't responded to it yet. Sunshine cut his hair. Yes. Yes, Teeny. Teeny time has arrived. We were waiting for you, but we couldn't wait for long. We waited 15 minutes. Everybody knows you dumped daiquiri mix in the fridge. And it was called blasphemy. Spilled alcohol. What a crime. Love you, Teeny. Love you, Teeny. Anyway. But that's why we haven't domesticated the red panda yet. The part you saved is delicious. Why do you need to be drunk when we're on the podcast? Huh? That's not fair. You know why it's not fair? Because the rum is gone. Why is the rum always gone? Anyway. So that's why we haven't domesticated the red panda. They need large sustained human interest for breeding or in breeding for tameness or utility over many generations. Ability to supply specialized food and habitat, reliably in human settlements, and sufficient population density to allow selective breeding without collapsing wild stocks. Honestly, they're an endangered species. They're not going to be domesticated. It is Friday night. It's Friday night. Anyway, moving on. Question 3. What is the first known human use of petrochemicals? Thank you, Kirk. I am not a what is it? I had it. I am not a geologist. I am not a fuel guy. I am an archaeologist. I can only tell you what they used it for. But I did the research. The earliest known human use of a petrochemical is natural bitumen or asphalt. Natural asphalt. Used as an adhesive and waterproofing material by the Middle Paleolithic people. Archaeological residues show bitumen hafting on stone tools as early as about now. This is why I needed to know when back then was. Because, and if you're in the Discord, you know what I'm talking about. Because the archaeological residue shows bitumen on stone tools as early as 40 to 70,000 years before present. 70,000 years ago, and you want to ask how much was a barrel of oil back then? What was used? Natural bitumen asphalt, a petroleum-derived tar-like substance from seeps, was used as an adhesive hafting material to glue stone points and handles and for waterproofing and sealing containers and boats. And those boats aren't the type of boats that you would expect. They would be similar to dugout canoes. Key archaeological finds: the mouse terrarian sites in the Levant and Syria produced flint implements with bitumen residues, first reported in the 1990s. These were interpreted as hafting residues on Middle Paleolithic tools. The el Tel, El Qam Basin in Syria, analysis identified bitumen on artifacts dated to roughly 40,000 years before present, and later work extended secure bitumen use to approximately 70,000 years before present at nearby Middle Paleolithic contexts, indicating that the Neanderthals and or early modern humans were deliberately collecting and applying bitumen. Later well-documented uses in the ancient Near East, Mesopotamia, Elam, Egypt. Bitumen was widely used for mortar, waterproofing, boat caulking, and funerary coatings for several millennia before the Common Era. Classical authors like Herodotus also note bitumen use in construction. Why this counts as the first petrochemical use? These early uses involved naturally occurring petroleum products collected from seeps and applied intentionally for their chemical / physical properties. So for those of you who are curious about a seep, SEEP, that would be like the La Brea tar pit. That's a seep. That's natural bitumen. That's natural asphalt. It's not necessarily tar. It's a tar-like substance. But that's what that's what we're asking about, or that's what we're just talking about. That functional, deliberate use of a hydrocarbon material is the earliest clear instance of humans exploiting a petrochemical resource. Kinda. It is kind of like pitch. So, Teeny, you have missed the whole title of the show tonight. It's Kirkuestions. Kirkuestions. Because all but one come from Kirk. Yep. Much further than what you thought. Now, that's naturally occurring. That's surface stuff. That's not drilling into the ground and getting the good stuff and refining the good stuff. But I hope you learned something there, because we will be coming back to this. And you better send me that. You sent me the question in the Discord. You better send it to me in the email, because I actually like that question, and I think you would be surprised with that answer. For those of you who don't know, it'll be next week. We won't discuss it this week. But Kirk posed a question, and I was already done setting up, so I'm not going to add it. But he asked a question about along the same lines of the petrochemicals, but using whale oil for things. But we will get to that. Oh, it's fine, Kirk. I don't mind answering your questions. But we do have to move forward to the next question, because the next question is a fun question. Because you asked. That's question 3. I wanted question 4. How fast could a pirate galleon have been had it been powered by like 40 big old outboard motors? Well, first of all, there's not enough room on the back end of a pirate galleon for 40 outboard motors. But again, I did the research for you. And the research states 13 to 18 knots. And that's primarily due to the fact that a 17th century galleon fitted with 40 modern big outboards would still be hull limited as a heavy displacement ship. Expect roughly 13 to 19 knots, 15 to 22 mile an hour under optimistic assumptions. Getting it onto plane much faster would require tens of thousands of horsepower and is effectively impossible without changing the hull. They were deep hull vessels. They weren't shallow hull vessels. They were deep hull vessels. Had a keel, had everything. And you're trying to turn a 150-foot long boat with outboard motors and sails. Like slow. And I'll tell you, so if you send me that question in an email, Retriever, I'll answer it next week. Because I actually have that answer. I actually know that answer. But we're talking about pirate ships. Power available from the outboards. Modern large outboards run about 300 to 450 horsepower. Up to current flagship units of 450 to 600 horsepower. 40 engines, therefore, give you about 12,000 to 24,000 horsepower, depending on the model choice. Heavy displacement hulls are limited by hull speed. Semi-displacement hulls can exceed hull speed by 20 to 40% with lots of power, while true planing requires roughly 40 to 50 horsepower per ton to get a heavy hull into plane or onto plane, and that's just up off the water kind of thing. Or this way. This is plane. So you're limited touching the water by this. That's why speedboats and everything raise up in the front end, because they're traveling at a high rate of speed. It's similar principle to aeronautics. That means tens of thousands of horsepower to plane. You're looking at roughly 100 to 200 tons of a ship. And you're trying to get it to do this, go from this to go all the way like to this, just to get it to move. That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct, Kirk. But I went, bottom line, if you bolt 40 modern big outboards into a historic galleon without changing the whole form, you can expect roughly 13 to 19 knots at best. To reach much higher speeds, you must redesign the hull and supply many more tens of thousands of horsepower. Now, I went even further. Because I asked it, I inquired about inboard motors instead of outboard motors. What I found out was not necessarily astonishing. Replacing the dozens of outboard motors with a few high-powered inboard diesel engines would likely be a bit faster and far more practical, but the galleon's speed would still be hull limited. Take your 40 big outboards, 13 to 19 knots. A couple V12 inboard diesels, roughly 2,000 to 2,500 horsepower each. So 4 to 8 of these inboard diesels or V12s to match the 40 big outboards. You're still getting 13 to 19 knots. But if you made it 3 to 6 V16s, you're getting 14 to 19 plus knots, 14 to 22 knots. It's still all hull limited. That's the deciding factor. You got to change the hull. Even a flat bottom hull would be faster than a galleon's deep draw hull. Ruining all your dreams of a pirate Fast and Furious now. Absolutely not, Teeny. All you got to do is ask. Because pirates don't have to have a big 3-masted galleon. Hell, our pirate Dom could run a cigarette boat. Or Brian, our pirate Brian, could run in a freaking jet boat. Or one of those V8 single seat freaking racing boats that kind of look like alien spaceships on the top of the water. I know. I use the word alien. Alien is a bad word in the podcast because ArchaeoWolf does not like ancient aliens. The little ice cream boat in the bay. You know, Teeny, not only do they have ice cream boats in the bay, they now have boats on flat bottoms that look like semi-trucks. You wonder what other ship shapes were available that Motorhead pirates could have used. The little pirate ship that could. All I can see is a pirate going, "Oh, my rum, watch this." Well, you kind of did see that. Because Jack Sparrow never planned anything. And that was showcased in the first movie. Do you think he plans this? It's not a fun word. It's not a bad word. It's a fun word. Well, thank you. Would the diesel combustion not burn or blow up the galleon? No, because diesel doesn't explode. The gasoline explodes, and it's not even the liquid gasoline that explodes. It's the vapors. It's the fumes. You could actually take a lit cigarette and put it into an open gallon container of diesel, and the diesel fuel will put the cigarette out. You do the same thing with with gasoline, and before the cigarette even hits the liquid, you've just engulfed yourself in flames. That's how volatile that is. Diesel requires compression and high heat. That's why diesel engines don't have spark plugs. They have glow plugs. Because they need the heat at a constant. They don't need it sparking. I just said that. Though, if you pour diesel on human feces while you're in Iraq, because that's how you have to get rid of your bio waste, it'll burn all day long. Don't ask me how I know that. Trust me. I still smell that shit. Literally. You were slow to the keys, aren't we all? That's where I want to be, is the keys, but I know what you mean. All right. So that's why we don't have big old boat engines on super galleons. Now, the pirate ship that I want to design and build. I don't think I've ever told you guys that I have design plans to build my own 3-masted sailing ship based on a 17th or 18th century model or a ship. But it's going to be a 3-masted sailing ship, and it's going to have a inboard motor on it, or multiple inboard motors, probably to 2 twin screw props underneath it, and those are just going to be for slow, not speedboat speeds, but for slow moving if there's no wind. It's going to have a moon pool in it. And for those of you who doesn't know, a moon pool is a section of the ship that's just a hole. It's a pressurized compartment. Typically, well, it doesn't have to be. Typically, it's a pressurized compartment so it keeps the ocean water out of the belly of the boat. And that's so you can do diving operations from inside the boat instead of trying to flip off the backside of the boat and fall 20 feet to the ocean below. Yeah, they're handy for docking operations. What wood would I use? Spruce, definitely not bonsai. Definitely not elm, definitely not oak. Yeah, no, I don't want to go there. Well, okay, let's be right back. We could go there. So oak, yes. Some moon pools don't. I have seen big iron hulled ships that have a gantry crane and everything, and a big giant square hole in the middle, and it's just open. But it's a tall ship. It's a deep ship. But so for the hull frames, keels, and structural planks, it would be oak. Pine and fir for the mast, spars, and deck planking due to its lightweight and straight grain. Elm was highly valued for keels and underwater components, the keelson, due to rot resistance. Teak was preferred for double deck planking and exteriors, particularly in the later years of the 18th century. Or the 19th century, 1800s. Teak was increasingly popular by 1800. Chestnut, home beam, and olive were used for specific fittings. Hull frames and outer planking were typically oak. The massive spars were lighter pine wood. Yep. And walls of the pool extend above the waterline, the outside waterline. Yeah. Let me. Oh, that's a better picture. Matter of fact, we'll just go here. So we're gonna go to here real quick. So here you can see that this ship This is the top deck of this ship. See? This is the top deck of the ship. There's the outside water. There's the moon pool. They put up the guardrails and fencings around it. They take the decking away, and you're left with this, which is just an open hole, not pressurized. There's your that red to green. That's your water line. So while everything else is centered, your water is coming up from the center here, and it's because the ship is solid all the way around it. It's just like you said, a big old giant circle, a giant O. But I want this inside the boat, on like the lowest floor of the boat. It might. I think it might. If it does, they would open up kind of like that. But there's another view of another moon pool. I think that right there, you see my cursor here. I think this right here is one of the doors. But you could take a submersible, a personal submersible, and keep it in here. And Kevin, we are looking at moon pools because we had a question on how a moon pool would be on a boat. Because I was talking about how I want to design a pirate ship and I want a moon pool in it. So that is what we were looking at. And you're not late. You're a wizard. And wizards are never late. They only arrive just when they mean to. But if you had like a personal submersible, personal submarine, you can park it right here in the moon pool. And then when you open it up. So here's the best analogy for that. And it's probably going to be Kirk. Kirk, sorry to call you out on this one, sir. But do you remember 20,000 Leagues? The voyage to, or the 20,000 Leagues Below the Sea, the freaking movie, 1954. What's that movie called? 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Captain Nemo's ship. Captain Nemo's submarine had a moon pool in it. Kevin, that was one of the Nautilus. Yeah, the Nautilus had a moon pool in it. And Kevin, that was one of my favorite movies growing up. And I'm not that old. But I watched it. So, wait, we need that open. But we're going to go right back to here. But that's what I want to have in my pirate ship. It's also going to be technologically advanced to have all sorts of navigation and Wi-Fi and all sorts of things. So I love that movie too, but I also hate that movie. And Retriever of Gold, when you realize what that movie is and realize that that movie should have had a sequel to it and they never did the sequel for one reason, for this reason, it makes you hate that movie. That movie forced Sean Connery into retirement. He was like, when he got done filming that movie, he was like, I am done. I retire from movie. That was his last movie role. Even at the end of the movie, when they've got that African medicine man doing the medicine dance over what should have been Alan Quartermain's grave, and then the lightning hit it, and knowing that the fact that Alan Quartermain was cursed to that Africa would never let him die, that should have opened it up for a sequel, but Sean Connery had none of it. He didn't like half the cast members in it. He fought with people all the time about it because people weren't taking the movie. I mean, they were just. It was a crap movie to Sean. Not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people do. But that was Sean Connery's last movie role. Last role anything. He retired and then moved to the Bahamas. And then said he's not going back to Scotland until, or he's not moving back to Scotland until Scotland and the rest of the UK can get their governments in order. And that Scotland, he would not move back to Scotland until Scotland fully separated themselves from the British Crown. And so he lived the rest of his life and died in the Bahamas. Sean Connery, one of my all-time favorite actors, second to Harrison Ford. I know. Why second to Harrison Ford? Harrison Ford, number one actor. Sean Connery, number two actor. It's just the way it is. Deal with it. But thank you for that question. Thank you for a trip down Conversation Street. Yes, I'm stealing that from from the Grand Tour, Conversation Street. Yeah, he was immortal. He was immortal, Kevin. You forget Sean Connery was the last Highlander. Well, I mean, what's his name? But I like the movie too. But that's why you get mixed feelings with the movie. You get to the end, and you get to the end of the movie when when Alan Quartermain is shot and is dying, knowing that's Sean Connery's last movie, his last role ever, and his last role is a death on screen. You basically killed your character and your career all in the same shot. Good night, Cody. You got to work in the morning? I did not know we were already in an hour. We still have questions to go. Wow. I was even going to mention the new Street Fighter movie coming out. It looks freaking awesome. I saw the trailer for it. It looks awesome. Kirk will name a mini after Cody. Okay. Anyway. We're at question 5? I think we're at question 5. And we're back to it. What was the cost of a barrel of oil 40 to 70,000 years before present, adjusted to today's US dollar? Who cares what it costs, sheep or whatever? Kirk, I want to tell you, this question has no answer. Because there is no historical price for oil 40,000 to 70,000 years ago. People had no money. They had no concept of money. They had no money markets. But if you force a modern US dollar equivalent, reasonable anchors give it a range of about $80 to $115 a barrel as of the market price today, or roughly $300 a barrel if you value the barrel by the energy it contains and replace that energy with today's electricity. So, better question. We already know, because yes, crude oil and natural bitumen existed 40 to 70,000 years ago. We know this. We just went through this. Petroleum is a geological product formed from the ancient organic matter over millions of years. This is where, and Kirk, you have touched on, you have hit a nerve, not with me, but with the rest of the people out there in the world, especially those individuals who read a certain book or who follow a certain pseudoscientist. No, no, no. Just every Christian who doesn't believe in science. Because petroleum is a geological product formed from the ancient organic matter over millions of years. Not 6,000 years, not 600,000 years, millions of years. The processes that generate oil, the burial of organic rich sediments, heat and pressure, migration into porous rocks, and trapping operate on a multi-million year time scale. So the hydrocarbons we exploit today were already present in the earth long before humans, which proves that the earth is more than 6,000 years old. No, 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 Kevin. Absolutely not. Check out the trailer. It's not goofy at all. It's yeah, no, I saw that trailer. Cody Rhodes is playing Guile. Roman Reigns is playing Akuma. They have Cammy. They have Chun-Li. They have Blanca. And it is dark. And it is it's great. The trailer for that is great. Matter of fact, they have Kin and Ryu is producing his fireball. Which Mortal Kombat? Because the new Mortal Kombat 1 that came out a couple years ago, is pretty awesome. Now, along with that, and along with Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat 2 is coming out this year. And they're reintroducing Johnny Cage, who is played by none other than Carl Urban, who plays William Butcher on The Boys, or Dr. Bones McCoy on the Star Trek reboots, or the vampire priest in Priest. That right there is a deep cut. Or Carl Urban was also the young CIA kid who got his butt beat by Bruce Willis in Red. Judge Dredd. He was the second Judge Dredd. because Stallone was the first Judge Dredd. But yes, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Check out those two trailers. And I know they should have came in Art Corner or whatnot, but you know what? Check out those two trailers. Dope. And Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes looks decent as Guile. I think they did a little cartoony with Guile's hair because Cody Rhodes has got Guile's hair like a foot and a half above his head. Proportionately wise, I don't think it works, but Guile always had that tall, high, flat top. So, though my favorite character was Blanca. So, but yeah, no, the Street Fighter, the new Street Fighter trailer looks great. The new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer looks phenomenal. And Mortal Kombat 2 is solely centered on Johnny Cage. Kind of like if you remember 1996, 98, the original Mortal Kombat movies, where the first Mortal Kombat movie had Johnny Cage in it, and it was centered on Johnny, and it was centered on what's his name? Yes, but in Armageddon, that's Liu Kang. Liu Kang. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, it was centered on Liu Kang and Johnny Cage. The first one in '96. The first one happened a couple years ago was just centered on Liu Kang. Armageddon, Mortal Kombat 2, Armageddon. Opening scene, Johnny Cage gets his back broke. So they remove him from the movie altogether when they go to Outworld. And when they're fighting when they're fighting Montaro and Shiva and Shao Kahn on Outworld, they don't have Johnny Cage. Well, they didn't have Johnny Cage in the first Mortal Kombat movie. Now they're focusing more on Johnny Cage. 50 Cent is playing Balrog. Do you know that in Japan, Balrog, Vega, and M. Bison are different people? Vega in Japan, Vega in the United States is Balrog in Japan. M. Bison in the United States is Vega in Japan. Balrog in the United States is M. Bison in Japan. And they did that because of copyright infringement and not wanting to sound like Mike Tyson. Because M. Bison in Japan is the boxer. I just learned this recently. Yep. Oh, 50 Cent? Big enough for the role? Yeah, no. No, Curtis Jackson is nice for that role. He is absolutely nice to that role. The only other individual who I could have seen, who I haven't seen act since friggin' the A-Team, would be Rampage. Oh no, Curtis Jackson is a great choice. He's too old. He's in his 50s now, but great choice. The guy they got to play M. Bison, I don't think fits that role. They tried too much to make M. Bison look, the new guy, look like Raul Julia, in my opinion. But it's Polka Dot Man from Suicide Squad. The guy who played Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad is the new M. Bison. I probably, I think he is. I think he's in One Piece, but he's also in Suicide Squad as Polka Dot Man. But yeah, no. But we're off track, guys. But I like getting off track. Keeps us going. Because we got more questions. That's what I'm talking about. They made him look small. M. Bison is not a small dude. M. Bison's a huge dude. Like, huge. But let's move forward, because we got 2 more questions and then we've got our deadly dungeon to do tonight. This question comes from Retriever of Gold, our good aquatic messiah. He has encircled the globe many times since his last question. He have used many of my techniques in dealing with traps and artifacts. However, it would seem that he tends to get captured a lot. Well, don't do that. How would I handle a situation where there be henchmen or bandits or even native guards? Please explain the method, whether you fight or sneak your way. I am trying not to get caught after all. Well, as one famous pirate used to say, we run away to fight another day. It's the old ancient traditions of running away so that we may fight another day. Steal a diesel-powered pirate galley. No, Kevin, you're good. You're good. My Street Fighter knowledge is akin to button mashing. That's why I like Blanca, because he could just sit there and electrify you. But short answer is Retriever of Gold. Short answer is avoid capture whenever possible by prioritizing detection, distance, and escape routes. Choose sneak when you can exploit cover and confusion. Choose fight only as a last resort to create an opportunity to flee. It's the ancient and most noblest pirate tradition. Run away. But you gotta decide quickly. Are you alone? Is there cover? Are pursuers trained trackers? Is a crowd or built environment nearby? Your primary goal is to avoid being detained. Means detection, avoidance, creating distance, and using terrain or people to mask your movement. Decision points to weigh. What's your distance to safety? What is the number and armament of your opponents? What is the presence of civilians or authorities? And what are your mobility and concealment options? My way is just to sneak. Sneak away. Never fight. Because if you don't have people backing you, you're going to lose that battle all day long. Now, there is also another noble and ancient tradition. It's called disguise. If you can run away and then disguise yourself as something else very quickly, you could run right or walk or sneak right past them as they're trying to come the other way. And now you've just gone past them. Now you can accomplish your goal. Giraffe costume. No. The track is a lie. What track? What track? Secret family technique of running away. Oh, no, not expecting a JoJo's reference. JoJo's reference? You just gotta trip a dolphin. You just got to not be the slowest escaper. That's just true. You don't have to be the fastest. I just have to be faster than you. That's how not to get caught. And that's the last question. That is the last question for the evening, everybody. But we have this. We have tonight's Deadly Dungeon, and it comes brought to you by the 1980s and 90s and 70s or 60s. Right? You've got Ellen Ripley versus John Wick. You've got Bruce Willis versus Race Bannon. And by the way, that says John McClane 1988-07-15. That's the actual date of release of Die Hard with a Vengeance. I think. And he's charged with yippee-ki-yay disturbance. I mean, that could be Die Hard 1. I don't remember. But I know we said Lara Croft, Angelina Jolie, but I found a picture with all three Lara Crofts. We got Brian Mills. We've got Rooster Cogburn, John Wayne, the Duke, El Duce. And, of course, we've got Bruce Lee. Look how big them gloves are. They're huge gloves. Makes him kind of look like a red panda. No. None of the votes were close. One was, but I voted the opposite direction, so it wasn't close anymore. No Polygon Lara Croft. There is a Polygon Lara Croft. I just don't have her photo there. But those were our battles, and those were our matchups. And you guys I want to go to the Discord. You guys voted. Oh, excuse me. You guys voted. There's 19 minutes left in the vote. Kevin, if you want to get in there and vote, 18 minutes left. Not that it's going to change anything. It'll just make the percentages closer, but at least on one of them, it'll make the percentages closer. But I'm not changing the percentages. So currently, with 18 minutes left in the Ellen Ripley versus John Wick saga, 5 votes for the Man in Black. 5 votes for John Wick. 1 vote for Ellen Ripley. Apparently, one person thought that Ellen Ripley would not kill John Wick's dog and steal his car. But 5 of you, myself included, so 4 of you, thought that John Wick would absolutely wax. In the John McClane-Race Bannon battle, it was closer. 5 of you, myself included, voted for John McClane. 3 of you voted for Race Bannon. Now, this is something I don't understand. There were 8 votes for John McClane versus Race Bannon. There's only 6 votes for Ellen Ripley versus John Wick. And there's 8 votes for Laura Croft versus Brian Mills. And there's 8 votes for Rooster Cogburn versus Bruce Lee. Night, Teeny. We know Kirk didn't vote for Ripley versus Wick, so that's 1. But there was somebody else who did not vote for Ripley versus Wick. That throws all the numbers off all the time. But you guys voted overwhelmingly for John McClane over Race Bannon. Undeniably, probably a good choice. For the Laura Croft versus Brian Mills battle, however, there were 6 votes for Laura and 2 votes for Brian Mills. Sorry, Brian. Just because you're a CIA agent and your daughter was taken does not make you hot. I think that's why everybody voted for Laura Croft, because she looks good in shorts. Don't stack votes. Dalian, welcome in. Maybe. And the final battle of the evening, Rooster Cogburn versus Bruce Lee. This was always going to be Bruce Lee's match. Undeniably. 6 of you voted for Bruce. 2 of you voted for Rooster. Sorry, Duke. You're just not that good anymore. No, she's not. She is rich. But they get that rich, but she gets that finances from her father's treasure hunting. And she's an archaeologist, or things. She's a treasure hunter. If Rooster had both eyes. And wasn't drunk all the time. I know. She's like Indiana Jones with a trust fund. She's like what could have happened if Indy and Marion got married and had a girl instead of having Shia LaBeouf. I could go on for days. But let's see how they did in the algorithm, because that's how you guys voted. But let's see how they did in the algorithm. First up, Ripley versus Wick. Ellen Ripley is a hardened survivor of xenomorph encounters, resourceful, calm under existential threat, skilled with firearms and improvised traps, high situational awareness in hostile environments. John Wick, elite assassin, master marksman, close quarters tactician, expert with pistols, shotguns, knives, relentless and highly trained in lethal hand-to-hand, and probably immortal. And probably Neo from The Matrix. There's a theory there, and the theory is that when Neo is plugged into The Matrix at the end of the first trilogy movies, when he's finally plugged in by the robots, that the world of John Wick is just a world that is created to keep Neo's mind active. And that his wife, who dies in John Wick, was actually Trinity. And that Winston is actually the architect. And it makes sense when you realize, when you get to the scene where Winston is talking to John at the fountain, and he asks why I'm not dead yet, because I deemed it not to be. And he looks over to the guy, and the guy's on the phone. He motions something, and everybody else around stops, turns, and looks at them, and then turns and walks away. That's kind of weird. That's Matrixy level stuff. Yes. Well, not necessarily a video game, just a simulation. We don't know if their realities are totally related, because some of the writers, now, while John Wick is not produced by the Wachowski sisters, they were Wachowski brothers, now they're Wachowski sisters, the same writing team wrote both movies. And when you have that piece of information, it makes that fan theory not so wild. But the 100 battle simulation has John Wick winning 62 over 38. Now, if we go back to what you guys voted, you guys voted 83-17 John Wick. That's not bad. You guys were in a ballpark. But Wick wins most neutral fights by outgunning and outmaneuvering Ripley. Ripley's path to victory is forcing a hazardous, confined fight where her experience with lethal environments and improvised defenses turns the tables. Though we've seen how John Wick does when he's cornered, I think those numbers should be higher for John Wick. I think you guys are about right on the money, about 83-17. I think you guys are right on that money. But moving forward, John McClane versus Race Bannon. John McClane, a New York police detective, improvisational fighting, high pain tolerance, expert at using the environment and surprise, skilled with pistols and dirty fighting, and the master of the yippee-ki-yay. Race Bannon, professional bodyguard and operative, trained in hand-to-hand combat, firearms, tactical driving, and protective detail tradecraft. Race Bannon is a CIA agent. Simulations have John McClane winning 54-46. It was close. It was close. Though you guys have John McClane winning 63-38. That wasn't close. Angelina Jolie versus Brian Mills. Like I said last week, Brian Mills is a one-trick pony. He's a CIA operative that has built up a collection of skills over a long career, a long and distinguished career. And that if he can find you, he will kill you. It's not a matter for Lara Croft to find you. She will find you. And depending on what you do with the artifact that she's trying to get from you, she may or may not kill you. You want to know how John McClane won? John McClane won because his scrappy unpredictability gives him a slight edge in chaotic improvised fights. Race wins more structured tactical engagements where training and discipline dominate. John McClane drops Race Bannon off a Nakatomi Tower. John McClane creates chaos, uses guerrilla tactics and improvised traps, exploits overconfidence, and fights dirty to neutralize superior technique. Race uses professional tactics to control the engagement, maintain discipline, use protective style maneuvers, and superior combatives to subdue quickly. So basically, Race Bannon is the German dude, not Hans, but the German dude that gets mad when John McClane kills his brother. Yes, I like that. John McClane is too crazy. Well, wouldn't you if you were married to Holly? I kid. I like Holly Gennaro. Anyway, back to Lara Croft and Brian Mills. Lara Croft's an archaeologist and elite adventurer, expert markswoman, acrobat, survivalist, skilled with pistols, bows, and improvised gadgets, highly mobile and stealthy. Brian Mills is a former CIA operative, master of close quarters combat, surveillance, tactical planning, and ruthless extraction techniques, excels at tracking and one-on-one neutralization. With mobility, ranged precision, environmental traps, and stealth, Lara Croft squeaks by in the algorithm. 56 to Brian's 44. What you guys voted was 75-25 Lara Croft. That tells me you guys just were in it for the booty. And I'm not talking about the treasure. But the final verdict is Lara wins when she can dictate range and the use of vertical terrain. Mills wins when he can isolate and force a close quarters confrontation, where his lethal control techniques end the fight fast. However, I remember a scene of close quarters combat with Lara Croft and like 50 other individuals when her mansion gets shot up. And she uses her acrobatic skills to go from one balcony to the other balcony while she's shooting and doing all of those Cirque du Soleil style frickin' moves and stuff. I think that number should be higher for Lara. But We don't say what the algorithm is. We do what you guys vote in Discord. And you guys voted in the Discord 75-25. Laura Croft versus to Brian Mills. So good on ya. And our final battle for the evening. Rooster Cogburn versus Bruce Lee. Rooster Cogburn is a gritty U.S. Marshal, experienced tracker and shooter, physically tough, uses a revolver in rough brawling, relentless and willing to use dirty tactics. Bruce Lee is a martial arts virtuoso, unmatched speed, precision, striking, grappling, and kinetic efficiency, peak human conditioning and reflexes. Unfortunately, none of that kept him alive. Rooster's plan is to use firearms to keep distance, leverage cover and tracking skills, accept dirty fighting, and use environment to create shooting windows. Bruce's plan is to close instantly, neutralize firearm with speed and disarm techniques, use lightning strikes to incapacitate before Rooster can fire effectively. Tylen, if you have to go, sir, go for it. We're going to be wrapping up here in about 10-15 minutes. But in the 100 battle simulation, Bruce Lee wins 71% of the time, Rooster Cogburn 29% of the time, and Bruce Lee's wins the majority by closing the distance before Rooster can reliably use his revolver and or his rifle, neutralizing the gun with superior hand-to-hand techniques. Rooster's path to victory is maintaining clear range and landing decisive revolver shots or long-range rifle shots, or using terrain to force Bruce into predictable approaches. Crimson Honda, welcome in. Wait, is that Retriever of Gold again? Jesus, Retriever, you have so many accounts. I like it. He did say he was gonna join his other 13 accounts and stack the deck. So, but here's the data points. You guys voted Rooster Cogburn 25%, Bruce Lee 75%. And with that, our bracket is now 2 brackets shy of being complete for the next round. And those 4 individuals, I am going to still do the randomizer, even though we know the four combatants. I am still doing the randomizer because I want to see. Martin Riggs was the last individual that the randomizer randomized into position. And he's one of the last 4 individuals on the randomizer wheel to be selected. I want to see if the randomizer hates Mel Gibson. With that, let's go to the randomizer. And the 4 individuals are Xena versus Alice from Resident Evil, Mila Jovovich, and Martin Riggs versus James Bond. Wheel of Mortality, turn. Tell us the first 2 we should burn. It does. The randomizer hates frickin' Mel Gibson. I will die on that hill. Wait a minute. No, that's not right. It changed the colors on me. Martin Riggs versus James Bond. So the randomizer hates Xena. Randomizer's anti-feminist. Anyway, Martin Riggs versus James Bond is the first one. And the final, we're just going to spin it. It's going to land on Xena and Alice. Well, Kevin, I'm glad you said that because I actually found a picture of Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris when it comes to that, because we know it's probably going to come down to that at some point in time. But our next two battles are Xena versus Alice Mila Jovovich. The first Resident Evil. The good one. The one where we find out how the T virus was created. Well, let's see. Let's go here because I have that. When Xena beats Alice, or Alice beats Xena, one of them will be battling Flash Gordon. And the winner of Martin Riggs versus James Bond is gonna be fighting Ash Williams and his boomstick. So, those are fun. I can tell you right now that the next round is going to be Speed Racer versus Wesley the Dread Pirate Roberts. Michael Knight versus Riddick. The winner of Xena and Alice versus Flash Gordon. Beatrix Kiddo versus Trinity. If the chat hates Lucy Lawless, yeah, you know. Next is Neo versus Dutch from Predator. Then Jason Bourne versus Conan the Barbarian, the animated character. Then we've got Bruce Lee versus Rick O'Connell. And Jack Reacher versus the Man with No Name. On the other side of the bracket, we have Sarah Connor versus Matthew Quigley. Buckaroo Banzai versus John McClane. King Leonidas versus Angus MacGyver. Snake Plissken versus James Tiberius Kirk. Han Solo versus John Wick. Alex Murphy versus Jackie Chan. So, RoboCop versus Super Cop. Laura Croft versus Chuck Norris. And finally, we have Ash Williams versus the winner of Martin Riggs, James Bond. I think this next round is just going to be wild. How many people in the chat think next round is going to be wild? Like, how can you have some of these characters go up against each other? Like, you guys are SOL when it comes to Lara Croft versus Chuck Norris. You guys got to choose hottie or baddie. Hot one versus lone wolf. I mean, Wild West. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the only ones that make sense. Beatrix Kiddo versus Trinity. That makes sense. Jack Reacher versus the Man with No Name. That makes sense. Michael Knight versus Riddick? Absolutely not. The only man in the world who looks hotter in polygons than her. So, okay. Yeah. So, Kevin, we'll do that. This Chuck Norris will be Walker, Texas Ranger Chuck Norris. versus Laura Croft. I mean, Han Solo versus John Wick does not make sense. I can't do meme Chuck Norris. Look, you guys want Chuck Norris to win, you guys voted for it in the chat, in the Discord. When we get there, we don't even know what matches are going to be after next week. I mean, we know who's going to be fighting, but we don't know what matches are coming up. But like King Leonidas, Angus MacGyver, does that really work? That one really doesn't work. Sarah Connor, Matthew Quigley, maybe. That one, I hate doing this because we have a bracket situated. But to make that one work, it would be, I would just have to swap Sarah Connor and the man with no name. I think Sarah Connor versus Jack Reacher would be a much better battle. And the man with no name versus Matthew Quigley would be a much better battle. But the randomizer chose everybody's position. That's where they put everybody. I think Rick O'Connell would be a better matchup for Laura Croft or for... Well, no, because Indy got beat. Indiana Jones got beat, didn't he? Yes. Where did he get beat at? Who beat Indiana Jones? We remember who beat Indiana Jones? That would be the Dread Pirate Wesley. I'm not going to switch it up because it's already... We'd have to do some finaglings and everything, and it's... Because the only way... So we couldn't switch it up because sending Sarah over to battle Jack Reacher, we'd have to put Sarah up against Kyle Reese and the man with no name up against William Wallace. You want to do a re-randomization? I mean, they don't do that in friggin' in NCAA basketball, but we could do it. We could do a re-randomization. Matter of fact, we can actually... I can do that. Extra poll. So while I'm doing the polls, how about we do the traditional good thing of the week? What's everybody's good thing of the week? You guys have 1 week on this answer. Okay. Other than waiting for the official closing, the in-laws' house has sold for more than asking and for all cash. Nice. Nice. It was a rough one for Kirk. By the way, on Instagram, I did reach out to Ruby. I have not heard back from Ruby. But there's things on Ruby's Instagram that are not so good. So please keep keep thoughts for Ruby and Ron out there. Good thoughts. I have some good things for the week, but I want to get this last poll in. And I don't know where Puffy Cheeto is. I saw Puffy Cheeto on Instagram. Also, she was on there, and I told her we were going live. Did not hear back from her. So, but I have some things. I'm going to go to the big live screen for this because it's huge. And I'm going to take my headphones off because I can't walk around with the headphones on. But I got something. I got something that I ordered something and it came in. And it actually came in last week, but I forgot to show it to you guys. I have to do this real quick. I have to go to broadcast settings, video. I have to do this because I got pirate flag. I got a pirate flag. Look at that. I know, right? It's a pirate flag. It's the pirate flag. It is all of it complete. And it's double-sided. Also, for those of you who don't know, I got a new, and I got this a couple months ago. I got a new piratey waistcoat. This is the Gentleman Pirate piratey waistcoat. Ain't that beautiful? Haha. It does work no matter which way the wind blows. Now, on a bad note, at the Norseforged gathering, I'm not going to turn the background back on right now. At the Norseforged gathering. Oh, I have the background down. As you guys can see, that's my bookcase collection, kind of like what freaking Archeo Wolf has behind him. But my room's a mess right now, so my office is a mess. And that is Wrath of a Shardalon D&D game, and that box, and Kirk, you're not gonna, you don't want to know what's in that box below that. You don't want to know. I know, right? Vest cost me $200 something. But at the Norseforged gathering, performers and patrons have been banned from the art of trinket trading. Now, while that's not a bad thing, because people, mostly patrons, go out and buy thousands upon thousands of Temu plastic ducks and they trade them and then people discard them, the organizers of the gathering, once we close, have to walk the entire gathering grounds and pick up the little plastic ducks or the trinkets or whatever, because the campsite, the campgrounds, is a Boy Scout Camp 1 and a forest preserve 2. So they have to keep it pristine. Show my shame, Pirate Dog? Oh, okay. 20 years. 20 years. I do have painted ones. I do have painted ones. But more so, I still have some that are not in bags, not even put together. Not even off the racks. I have a whole orc army for Warhammer 40k here that I haven't been able to play, which is why I haven't painted them, because I don't have anybody to play with. So it's not necessarily gray shame, because they are not put together. The ones that are put together are painted. No gray shame, because they're not put together. Well, in effect, Kevin, a lot of Ren fairs are banning trinket trading because it's a lot more than just the littering. It wasn't really that expensive when I bought it in 2007 or 2006, Kevin. Glue shame. So I bought all of that stuff while I was in Egypt when I was stationed there for the army. And it all came from Games Workshop UK. As a matter of fact, I have the 3 original pewter orc choppers, the helicopters, and all of the components, all made of the pewter from Games Workshop UK. I didn't eat all the craft glue. Anyway. But no, so that's my box of toys. One of my boxes of toys. But so because of the trinket trading being banned, the Norseforged gathering went to having a little stamp book. Right? Not bad. Not a bad purchase. But I bought a stamp. A custom stamp. Now, the stamp should have looked like the flag. And I have messed it up because let me see if I can't do this while we're sitting here talking about it. So when I put my stamp in the stamp configurator for my custom stuff, they told me upload my image, upload the image that I want. So I did, thinking that everything would be copacetic, right? This is what my image should have looked like. Well, this is what the image that I submitted looked like. That's a badass image, right? That's an awesome image. Looks great. Looks like it would stamp great. Ordered a self-inking stamp and everything. One of those ones that I put the picture, the thing on it, and it stamps it with the stamp pad. You push it down, and it rotates, and it's great, right? Well, what they sent me. Let's see. They sent me this. They sent me the picture, which shows that it should stamp correctly, right? Well, unfortunately, dang it. Stay up there. Unfortunately, when you read that straight there, you can also read it straight there. Which means when you go to stamp it, it stamps in reverse. Instead of the image on the stamper being reversed, so that when you stamp it, you read it correctly, they made it incorrectly. It is backwards. They also didn't give me a self-inking stamper. They gave me a pre-inked stamper. So I complained about it. I got it delivered today. I complained about it. And the company reached out to me and said, so send me pictures of the issues so we can see about getting this taken care of. Which is nice of them. It's really nice of them. Ah, light's falling. Aziz, light. Ha ha. Name the movie. You do need to use a mirror decoder ring. But the other thing is, when you stamp it, right? That's a normal stamping. Like, that's light on the stamper, and it's not readable, right? when you press down heavy to stamp it, it becomes blurred. Because the imprint on the stamping isn't deep. Because it's not the stamper that I asked for. But we'll get it figured out. We have a month. Maybe. But then I'm taking up 2 pages of somebody's stamp book. And these pages aren't anything light. They are thick pages. They are thick, heavy-duty pages. Well, that's why I wanted a good stamper, so I could learn how fast to stamp it or how hard to stamp it, Kirk, before the gathering. I've got 30 days, 35 days. But that's my bad thing for the week. I also have completed a science experiment, so to speak. A lot of you won't understand. Some of you may. Not discounting anybody else's experiment or experiences. But I have these. I have 2 cases of these. A case A and a case B. Right? That is the production packaging date code on the back of these. 4307. Right? That's November 7th, 2004, when this MRE was packaged. And I just hate the meatloaf one earlier today, and it's still good. 22 years. Now, there are some components of these that are bad, like the heater, because the heater is manganese and iron oxide, and it rusts, so it loses its heating ability. Things like some of the crackers, even though the crackers are supposed to last forever, some of the crackers actually just taste like dog do. But for the most part, the mashed potatoes and the meatloaf that I had was good. Eventually, but this is 22 years. Kevin, if I could draw, I would draw the symbol by hand, but I can't draw, and it's faster when you have like 2,000 people coming up to you asking for a stamp or something. Yeah, they do. But they're even staler after 22 years. But with that being said, that's not a bad stamp. It would not be a bad stamp if it was produced correctly. But we have my Brazen Buccaneers, and we have a friend of mine, Pirate Captain Moss, and his Merry Marauders. I think the Brazen Buccaneers and Merry Marauders are awesome. And if you guys come to the gathering, you will see me on stage. Well, not on stage, but performing with the Merry Marauders outside of the Pirate Enclave, the Pirate Encampment, right next to the mermaids. Matter of fact, we have, let me see if I can find it. I should be able to find it. Let's go back to here so you guys can't see what I'm doing. Not that I'm hiding anything from you, but I'm hiding my Facebook from you. Could be a collectible in later years because it's the reverse original. Yeah, it's the rare reverse flag version. Yep. Like a misprinted coin. He's acting like the Wizard of Oz. I am not acting like the Wizard of Oz. Here be the Norseforged gathering map. Way over here by Campground 6 is the Fairy Coven. Meet your fairies, place bounties. Over here with the big archery stuff is the archery range. Shoot at targets with bows and arrows. I might go do that. The Bigfoot Gem Mine. It's a mobile gem mining experience. And obtaining treasures. They could do that over here. Then you've got the Norseling camp, the camps for the littles. So, Alan, these were discontinued in 2015. These be the crispy M&Ms. I had MREs back when I was in the 90s. I had my uncle's Desert Storm MREs that still had the Charms candies in it. Bye, Honda. Or Werther's Originals in it. We got our gladiatorial pit here. We got our axe throwing right next to our gladiatorial pit. We got the blacksmiths guilds. And Tank Tolman's training area is over here. We got Norse's camp right where Norse's camp was last year. We got whatever that is. I can't see that. Oh, a vendor row. You got vendor row here and vendor row here and lots of vendors. You got the mermaids and the pirates, and we're next to the pool because the pool is right here. And you got the falconry school, our climbing tower, Knights of the Realm. The gaming hall is down here for people who want to do TTRPG gamings. You got an off limits area. You got the Sasquatch area. You got 3 stages. Yep. Get there early on Friday if you plan to camp. Campsites open at 9 a.m. But we have, let's see, let's go here. These are the stage schedules. 10 a.m. opening ceremonies. 11 a.m. Wayward Falconry. 1 p.m. Knights of the Realm. 2 p.m. Alley the Piper. 4:30 p.m. Harp Twins and Wolfgang. That's on the main stage. Center stage is stage 2. Knights of the Realm is at 6 p.m. 8 p.m. on Saturday, Metal and Fire. That's our metal bands and fire performers. Splintered Reality, Dia Morte, and Withering Earth are our 3 bands that are going to show up. Skogamore is going to be there. Shoot at targets. There's got to be jousting and acrobatics this year. This is Splintered Reality. This is Dia Morte, and this is Withered Earth. This is the Harp Twins and the Wolfgang Twins. And we've got Allie the Piper. You guys might remember Allie the Piper. She played at the Indianapolis Colts halftime show last year. One of the halftime shows last year. Or Super Bowl halftime show 2 years ago. Something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. I know she played for the Indianapolis Colts halftime show like 1 year. And we've got Tank Tolman and Queen of Vikings. I don't know what that is. That's the nameless one. That's not Norseforged Gathering. Well, he's showcasing his involvement in the Norseforged Gathering. But yeah, that's it. That's my plug for the Norseforged Gathering. Allie the Piper is good. Allie the Piper is so good. I get to meet Allie the Piper this year. Should have met her 2 years ago. She was here at in Oklahoma City at one of the brew houses playing a show with the electric violinist girl. Yeah. I've never shot a bow and arrow. Not even in Boy Scouts. Look, Kevin, Allie the Piper is so good that Metallica gave her permission to bagpipeify one of their songs. And she does a very good rendition on bagpipes of Freebird. Check her out. Check out her videos. Check her out. She absolutely kills it. And I think there's only one song that she won't do. It could be she does, maybe she does it, I don't know. But I think she doesn't do it because of because it's one of Bon Scott's signature pieces and it's Long Way to the Top. But she does all sorts of piratey shanty stuff. She's really good. Check her out. Check her out. With that being said, that's my plug. That's my Norseforged Gathering plug for the week. Next week we will be hopefully let's say that, because I could get orders now that I don't have a class. Next week we should be here, same time, same place. Unless you guys send me questions over the weekend that will push us forward an hour so that ArchaeoWolf could get in on the answers. Don't know. You guys haven't sent me any questions that ArchaeoWolf would want to answer. But if I do, it'll be in the Discord, the time change. So, with that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this evening of Rogue Bard Advice, a D&D TTRPG sports and everything podcast. We haven't been talking about sports lately because sports hasn't started yet. But once sports starts, we will be speaking about sports more so in the Discord chat. I want to thank everybody who has joined us and who has stuck with us. I want to thank Kevin and Kirk and Retriever of Gold and Jim, and shout out to Ruby and Ron. Hope you're doing well. Shout out to Buffy Cheeto. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Teeny, for showing up and having fun and keeping us all on track and being den mother. But with that, I have been your host, the Pirate Archaeologist, the Rogue Pirate Archaeologist, the Rogue Thief Pirate Archaeologist, Captain Bartholomew Bones McCoy, or simply Chris. Please send any questions, concerns, whatnot to roguebardadvice@gmail.com. That is roguebardadvice@gmail.com. And I will be sure to answer your questions. If I don't next show, just show later, or the show on a background show. And if you want to send questions to ArchaeoWolf through Rogue Bard Advice, I'll make sure he gets those so that he can answer the questions, as he is a valued member of our team. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast if you like everything you hear. Hit that notification bell to make sure that you get notified that we are going live. We go live every Friday between 8 p.m. Eastern or Central and 9 p.m. Central, or 9 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern. Those are our starting times. We can start anywhere between there, and we usually go for an hour, though tonight we've gone for 2.5 hours. So I want to thank everybody again for sticking around and enjoying this 52nd episode of Rogue Bard Advice. We've gone over halfway. Remember, take what you can. Give nothing back. That be the pirate's code.